All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. We'd love you to support this show. Please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Your likes and subscription helps us to grow and attract interviews and content. So please retweet and share our posts. Your contributions are appreciated. Welcome to episode 433 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill. Today we've got Lonnie, St. Louis Kiss.
What's up?
And we've got 69th Blizzard for now.
For now. Yes. Hello.
We might be popping in, popping out of this podcast. So anyone got any comments queued up from the last episode, Ken? That's your one job. Are you ready? Got a whole bunch of comments? Or are we going to give that a pass this week? Because I sure as hell don't.
Bill Phelps says, "Great show, guys. I look forward to these album death matches. I was hoping this song gets. I really like it. I also like the majority of Sonic Boom. So glad some songs were moved on. The next matchup is going to be interesting." Thanks, Bill.
I don't remember. What is the next matchup? Oh, Dynasty and Love Gun, isn't it? Ken?
Dynasty and Love Gun? Yes.
Wolf of Nature says, "I will say up front before watching this week's episode, there are 5 songs on Creatures that can lose Sonic Boom. Killer and Depending, I Still Love You, and War Machine. Those 3 Gene songs are 99.9 skip songs for me since the record came out. The rest of the record is pure platinum to my ears." M. Murphy says, "All for the Glory is just dreadful. The lyrics are some of the worst in the entire catalog. Sonic Boom overall was a huge disappointment for me. I was expecting a return to a 70s sound and got a hodgepodge of goofy lyrics and dull music." Well, hodgepodge of goofy lyrics, that's kind of Kiss in a nutshell, though, at the same time.
Yeah. I think we've kind of proven that one, and they've proven it year after year after year that, you know what, I was listening to Sonic Boom today because I had to do a little bit of show prep for one of the questions. We're going into the board topics this week because I'm lazy, and it means I don't have to do any real preparation for a show other than listening to a single album. So why don't we jump into some of these topics that, have been permeating the board over the past week. And let's just start with the naming of the debut album. I thought that was actually an interesting topic. What if it had been called something other than Kiss, the self-titled album? What would you have called it, and would you have used one of the song titles included on the album as the album's title? Ken?
Yeah, I saw that and I was thinking about it. I think I came up with one or a couple of possible choices. One being, I thought All for One would be a kind of a cool title. I think it's been used on other album titles, other groups or whatever. But they were kind of like that at the beginning, all for one, one for all kind of thing. Another thing, I would maybe do maybe Black Diamond would be a cool, title. And then possibly another one would be, Give Us Your Money.
Give us your money. Get used to it.
We're doing it for the money. But no, so something like that. But All for One was the first thing that kind of came to my mind.
Lonnie, what about you? I mean, it's kind of an uncomfortable revisionist fantasy type question, isn't it?
It's kind of strange because I think that just Kiss is the perfect title for the debut album. I really can't imagine it being called much of anything else. But thinking about it, I agree with Ken. I think Black Diamond may have worked as an album title, and even if you stuck with the same artwork, I think just that original Kiss album artwork, Black Diamond, I think that works. Outside of that, for song titles, I don't think anything else really stands out that that could work. Like I don't think Kiss Strutter. I don't think that works
Yeah.
as an album title, but I think Black Diamond does. But I really can't imagine that album being called really anything else. It's perfect the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, even me who goes off into the fantasy realm quite often, I don't see any song title working particularly well. If I was to come up with a dumb one, it would be the answer to the question the Dolls asked, you know, because of course they had a song looking for a kiss. Well, here we are. But none of the song titles work. Nothing to Lose, maybe kind of ish, but no, Kiss is perfect. Hype of the Year, well, I guess they haven't been called that yet. Actually, I was reading through some fun shit today, and some of the alternative album titles that they have had throughout the years are where they probably have I can't remember if we've done a discussion on that, so always kind of cool. So what do you guys think out there? Should the first Kiss album have been called something other than Kiss? Or should they have gone the Zeppelin route? Kiss, Kiss 2, Kiss 3, Kiss 4?
Exciting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right, moving on into the fantasy realm. Wow. I have no idea. I have to find that thread. Carnival of Souls is a vapid waste of time. Oh, the love just permeates on the board sometimes. Is it a waste of time? And I guess, is it a vapid or vapid? Whichever way you want to say it. Lonnie? I saw the soda can.
No, I don't think it's a waste of time. It's very different, and it doesn't sound to a lot of Kiss fans' ears like a Kiss album, or what a lot of Kiss fans think a Kiss album should sound like. For me, it was a little disappointing when it came out because it was advertised as picking up where Revenge left off. And while I think Hate kind of picks up where Revenge left off, a lot of the album does not, and it's in a much different tone than what Revenge is. So, but is it a waste of time? No. I think that Gene and Paul knew what they had with Carnival of Souls, and I think they knew that, that this album isn't going to make it wasn't splash worthy. It wasn't going to make a big splash and be, put them back into filled arenas where they were struggling with arenas and had to be cut short. And it's one reason why the reunion happened. But I don't think, is it a waste of time? No. There's worse albums in the catalog than Carnival.
Yeah, and it's coming up for its 25th anniversary, this month. We did an episode on it earlier this year, but it's an opportune time for fans to go back and listen to it if they haven't in a while. I mean, it really is one of those albums that remains very divisive, but, I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it's that moment in time that you mentioned. They were trying the very best that they could at the time to actually put out an album, and to be perfectly honest, I don't think there was a whole hell of a lot, going on. Sonically, the songs are okay, but the songs needed work. The ones that I liked then, I still like now. It's not a waste of time. It's another one of those weird things in the catalog, right next to The Elder, that stands out, that at least they tried to keep moving forward. Well, not necessarily forward, but keep moving. And they weren't afraid to, jump on yet another coattail, just like they'd done with the glam movement and, everything else throughout their career to a certain extent. Ken?
Yeah, it's not a waste of time. I think about half the album I enjoy, maybe a little bit more than half. I definitely like the Gene songs on the album, but because they fit him, they just work. The Paul songs, hit and miss. I think I like a couple of the Paul songs. That's about it. But it's not a waste of time. Yes, it was a album, kind of a reach to, stay with the trends and stuff that's going on, and it was too late. Anyway, it was already too late by the time they got it out. It's kind of the same thing as Crazy Nights was kind of too late. following footsteps of Bon Jovi or whatever. So yeah, it's not a waste of time. I enjoy a listen now and then. That album, have no major problems with it.
Okay, so I found the "Does anyone else get a little angry?" thread. Now I see why I put it on the list. And if you hear jets buzzing in the background, it's going to be Fleet Week
Blue
in
Angels.
San Francisco, and it's a practice day for the Blue Angels. So, hoorah! It's a fun time of year where the Navy gets honored in the Bay Area, which is a good thing. Okay, so getting back to this, does anyone else get angry? Someone went on Reddit. They talk about Kiss on Reddit and not on the FAQ. I thought the FAQ was the only place that anyone spoke
Reddit?
about. Yeah. What's Reddit?
It's all joyful over on Reddit too, I'm sure, because the FAQ is the only place where there's
Read it on Reddit.
where there's any kind of
Do they
just bad stuff.
do they have a banhammer wielding megalomaniac on Reddit?
They probably need one.
All right. So Carson96 posted this topic. Blah blah. I saw. Who is the most overrated classic rock band of all time? Well, clearly not Kiss, because we spend all this time discussing them. Many people were saying that Kiss is, because their music sucks and it's all just stage show with bad music and dudes dressed up for 12-year-old boys. One even said Kiss is insane clown posse for boomers. I don't know about you guys, but it gets me angry when I hear or see people shit on Kiss, because Kiss is like a part of me. That's actually a nice sentiment, but do the hairs on the back of your neck get raised when someone bags on Kiss in conversation? They say, if you're talking about music, they're like, oh, what do you like? And you're like, oh, Kiss, Judas Priest, Def Leppard, and they go, oh, Kiss sucks. Like fucking Detroit Rock City, the movie. Love that scene. Does it bother you in any sense? Or, have we been at this rodeo so long now that we've drunk so much Kool-Aid that we're immune to sarcastic comments, or we simply don't give a shit? Ken?
Yeah, it's kind of like that, though. It's I've been dealing with it for 40 some years, right? 45 years, I guess. So yeah, it's the same old thing. It's a lot of people. I'm gonna guess a lot of those people that have said, Kiss is, they suck. They're for 12-year-olds or whatever. They've never listened to any of Kiss's music. Maybe they just heard Rock and Roll Night or whatever in a football game or something. But I guarantee the majority of those people who say Kiss have never even listened to it, because they, kind of like Paul says, they listen with their eyes, and they just see them. They don't like that kind of thing. They don't like the makeup stuff. They don't like superhero stuff or whatever. And they just say, those guys, they must suck, So, but again, they wouldn't be around this long if that music sucked, because you got to have something to back up the makeup in the show. So
Yeah, it should be tied down.
I don't get angry. It's not even worth it wasting my time on that.
Okay, so like
I'm
a
so
Clockwork
mad.
Orange, they should be tied down with their eyes forced open and made to watch Phantom
Ears
of the Park.
forced open.
No,
Made-
MTV
Made to
Unplugged.
watch Kiss Meets the Phantom.
You can do that.
No, MTV Unplugged.
Yeah.
If they don't think Kiss can play and that the songs suck because of the pyro, the costumes, and everything else, then give them, the strip back. It's not completely acoustic, obviously, but it's still very raw and honest. Lonnie, do you punch people out when they say Kiss sucks, or they know not
It
to say it
used
to
to
you?
bother me. It used to bother me. It used to get under my skin, and I was so proud of them when I was in high school, and that I'd have Kiss. I would actually sew Kiss patches on my backpack and shit. I was so proud of them. They were my band, and I remember knowing that I'm gonna get shit for this at school by sewing these patches on my backpack, and knowing that I'm gonna get shit for this, but I don't care, because they're my band, and I love them, and I'm proud of them. And I used to get shit for it, and it would bother me, and I'd bark back what do you listen to, and no matter what they'd say, I'd go off on that, no matter what they would say they listened to, and over the years, I don't. It doesn't. I don't. I've mellowed out. Maybe I guess I don't care anymore. My best friend hates Kiss. He hates Kiss. He says, yeah, because that's the only thing about you I just don't understand is the whole Kiss thing. I just don't get it. He doesn't like him at all. But I don't care. It doesn't bother me that he doesn't like him, or he gives me a hard time about it. I don't care anymore. And I guess it's just more secureness with it. That I like what I like. They've been successful for nearly 50 years. Maybe that's your problem that you don't like.
What's your friend's favorite?
He likes more hardcore stuff. He likes Metallica and Slayer and stuff like that.
Okay.
So he looks at Kiss as like, oh well, that's just nonsense type. They can't play, stuff like that. So it's fine. It's fine. I don't. It doesn't bother me. It used to bother me. When people would give me shit about him, and I would stand up for him, and I would talk smack back to him, but I don't care anymore. And writers and like these lists and that's never going to change. Even when Kiss is gone and plays a final show, whenever the hell that may be at this point, maybe 5-10 years from now, and they're always going to say that. They're always going to say classic rock bands, oh, look at Kiss, that's just nonsense. That's never going to stop. It's been going on for 50 years and it's not going to stop.
Yeah, I've always kind of retorted to people, they're fun. Why do I like Kiss? They're fun. They're like the circus without cruelty to animals. Without elephant shit. It's just fun. I always say, I'm not afraid to say, well, I like real bands too. Because in terms of artistic bands, I'll put the musicianship of Pink Floyd and listening to that catalog way above. But in terms of entertainment, it's fun. It's still fun. It's still entertaining. It's like a goddamn soap opera as well.
It's a good time.
For sure.
But, a lot of people, in my life haven't ever criticized it. Maybe they think I'm a crayon-eating idiot. Maybe I am. It doesn't matter. They never really laughed at me. I mean, I was fortunate that my sister and I are close in age, so we shared a common bond in music to a certain extent, and she'd often buy stuff and introduce me to stuff, and sometimes I'd buy stuff and introduce her to stuff, and I still listen to a lot of it. I think she's pretty much progressed past most of that hair metal, misogynistic, toxic male shit. But there we go. I haven't, clearly. But it doesn't bother me if someone doesn't say it. I like to think people are respectful of me, that they're not going to mock my taste any more than they'd mock my love of curry. And it's like, oh, well, you eat that shit? You listen to that shit? Well, we listen to the Rolling Stones most of the week and Roy Orbison, and I like Kiss. Big deal. What's it matter to you? You like Tiffany. You like New Kids on the Block. What the hell's the difference?
I think,
you listen to early Pulp. Up yours.
I think half the people that went to the reunion concert were people that probably kind of discarded Kiss as a band back in the 70s. It's kind of like come
right,
on.
But they're traitors masking their shame.
But later on,
but it was the event of the year it was the event of the summer in '96. You had
but then when it came to '96. They came for that fear of missing out kind of thing. Is all the excitement? I guess I should just go see and how good this show, the band is, and this show that they supposedly, put on this spectacular thing. So I think a lot of that happened '96. And then the people that just missed out, like, oh shoot, they got into Kiss too late. Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the people who were born in the early '80s or late '70s, and only heard the legend of the makeup and the stage, like myself, exactly, like me and my brother going and seeing it, and we were hooked before that, and it just put us over the top.
Yeah, I think any message board, any forum, anything is always going to have the shit stirrers who are just looking for outrage or to say something. I mean, is it Insane Clown Posse for boomers? Well, it's probably not too far off. What I'm aware of with ICP is they do entertainment, and they're just doing it for a different age group than KISS. It's Wasp, same thing, different generation. Shock, notoriety, make that get that message across in the early years, and you either stand the test of time or you don't. So, but then again, other people's opinions about music, do they get me angry? Why would I bother getting angry over someone else's opinion? It's not right or wrong. Can they lob insults? Yeah, sure, anyone can do that.
I got enough to get upset about. I don't need to get upset about that.
Yeah. You want to get upset? Turn on the news or fill up your car with gas. There you go. Go get upset, or just do your freaking food shopping. Oh shit! I forgot to get milk. No, I'll be going out. Yeah. So, actually, that just gave me a thought. I was in the studio Monday night, and my engineer did not know that KISS were still around.
Oh, really?
So that's someone who works with music and musicians on a regular basis, who is our age group, or my age group at least, had no idea they're still out there touring, had no clue that they had reunited.
You were reunited?
Yeah.
Who's in charge of marketing for KISS? They need to be fired.
KISS is not as pervasive as we want to think. At times, and that was kind of interesting to just not know the people. He knew a few of the names around the band as we were chatting history, but it was really interesting. I mean, we were talking more about other acts and other bands, and that was where there was more kind of knowledge, kind of middle of the road, not necessarily middle of the road, but more visible in the 80s. So that was weird. That was just, when we talk about people, insulting KISS, well, I think it's more of an insult to not know anything that they're still around.
It's true. It's true.
But there we go. All right, moving on with the board topics. We've got to crank through these. This was fun because this made me dig out Sonic Boom, the most AC/DC-ish song by KISS. And there was quite a bit of discussion about AC/DC, right? Like people in the Let's Talk About Music forum on the FAQ were like, I don't get the love of AC/DC. They never changed. Well, that's part of the love of AC/DC, is that you could always count on them re-releasing the same album with slightly different lyrics the next year or 2 years down the road. There was very little development that went into that band in terms of its sound. I mean, Fly on the Wall. I mean, there's two different AC/DCs, Bon and Brian. Other than that, there's not a whole... And people may say, well, Ball Breaker. Well, yeah.
I like Ball Breaker.
Yeah, that was good. So.
All right, so what do you think is the most AC/DC-ish song by KISS? Ken?
Yeah, well, yes, for me, and I mentioned this before when we reviewed the album. We reviewed Lick It Up. Not that song, but the album. I always thought Dance All Over Your Face is, the most AC/DC. Has a riff there that's definitely that type of style riff that AC/DC would use. And to this day, I still believe, it sounds like it to me. So that's one definite one that just right in my mind, because I always thought that. From the first time hearing the song, really? I remember like that riff sounds like AC/DC, when the song starts even. So that's one. Another one that I think kind of, and I maybe missed another ones, but Larger Than Life was another one that kind of a little bit AC/DC too. I'm sure there's other ones, but those are the two that kind of stick out to me when I think about it.
Lonnie?
Those are two good ones. For me, the first one that comes to mind when I think about this topic is War Machine. I think War Machine has like an AC/DC type of riff to it as well. I could see Angus playing playing that riff. I think that works as an AC/DC type of song. Same type of era, same era as Dance All Over Your Face from Ken. So, that's a weird question. You know what I mean? And I think Ken had two good ones. War Machine is the only one I could really come up with thinking about it. That really, to me, sounds like an AC/DC type song. I mean, I don't know. Can Brian Johnson not tour? Maybe I know this isn't an AC/DC podcast, but can Brian Johnson not tour? Is that why they didn't tour for the new album? I don't know.
No, I think that was because of COVID era.
Or of COVID.
I get it, but a lot of
they
bands
were planning on touring.
Yeah, well, he was on stage in London for the Taylor Hawkins tribute.
Sounded good.
Yeah, he sounded like he was shitting a pineapple as always.
It always sounds the same. Yeah, maybe next year. I'm hoping that
I'd like to see him again.
Tour. Yeah.
I saw him in, I don't know, 16, 17, something like that. They were great.
Well, 73 is their 50th, I believe. Yeah, 73. So
maybe we're
perfect timing. 50th anniversary tour.
Go out with Kiss.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so AC/DC song. I've never really listened to an album in the catalog, and it's jumped out at me as an AC/DC song. Now, when we reviewed Sonic Boom, without a doubt, Tommy Thayer is clearly a fan of AC/DC because when lightning strikes, the guitar underlying the solo is flick of the switch to me. Just missing the little newly part at the end of that. It's basically the verse to flick of the switch. I only know that because I fucking love playing that song and the riff. That's the only one that really jumps out at me. I looked at some of the suggestions that people were putting on the board. I think Down on Your Knees was another one that was pointed out quite a few times as being AC/DC-ish, but I don't hear it. But again, maybe you had to be there in 82. So what were they? Well, 82 would be for those about to rock.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't hear a lot of crossover that way. Two completely separate bands. I mean, would you like Kiss more if they'd stayed more consistent within a very narrow definition, or have you enjoyed them more for going outside of that wheelhouse and sometimes falling flat on their faces, Ken?
Yeah. It's kind of a double-edged sword, that kind of thing. So I think I enjoy them because of the variety, I guess, because I can, for different moods, I can, go to Unmasked for a poppier feel, or if I want the heavy, super heavy stuff, I go, Creatures, Look It Up, Revenge. There's different, or if I just want, a raw kind of sound, rock and roll over, it's different. They progressed and they did go into different styles. Would they, say they kind of hooked into rock and roll over style, it probably would have gotten old, So it's good that they kind of change here and there. It's kind of hard to even think of that they could do that. Something like ACD, what AC/DC has done through their whole career. I still, for the most part, Kiss sounds like Kiss. I don't know what it is, but they sound like Kiss for the most of the albums, obviously. And then here and there's just these crazy left turns that they took and sounded different, a lot different. So to answer your question, I'm fine with the way they ended up going.
Like, what was my question? I've forgotten, but it's a nice opportunity to do a little sidetrack and just, what is your favorite AC/DC album? I'm curious.
For me, it's Back in Black.
Okay.
So I like Highway to Hell a lot too. Close second.
Okay. Mine is the one I did a fantastic episode of.
You like High Voltage or something, right?
Powerage.
Powerage is good.
Yes. That is the high point for me. Lonnie, all of that. Your favorite AC/DC album?
Powerage is good. I will say Highway to Hell. Although I do like Ball Breaker. I've said that on the show in the past too. I do like that. Probably because the first time I saw him was the Ball Breaker tour, and then it just, music is about timeline, and
Hail Caesar.
All Hail Caesar is a good song.
Didn't they have something like rub you with oil or something really?
Cover you in oil.
Jesus.
Pretty good. That could be a Kiss song. That could be a Kiss song. Cover you in oil.
Speaking of AC/DC, that last album was pretty darn good.
Yeah, we did a review of that on the other show. It was,
And here's.
Oh, look at that!
Nice.
Look at you.
I bought this.
Now I better turn it off for the rest of the show.
Okay, anyway.
Why doesn't Kiss have something like that with the frickin' logo?
No.
Yeah.
We're not going to do anything like that. Settle down.
A cool little thing that.
God, a little road case with a flashing Kiss logo.
And you get the CD is inside it, and I forget how they get the thing out of it. But the CD's in here, and
brilliant business people, huh?
It's in there. Just can't get it out of there.
There's even a charger in here too for charging it back up the battery. There's a little plug right here for.
The
Kiss one wouldn't come on. No, you have to buy a new one.
For charging it back up, they'd make you buy another.
Here's the
Odie takes Kiss-size batteries available.
Available at kissonline.com.
This size opens, and then you get there's the CD. Your normal, CD.
Power.
And then, the cord right here is for charging it, USB. So, I thought it was clever. I thought that was cool.
That is very clever. Just another AC/DC bandwagon that perhaps Kiss could hop on with a new collection or something. Well, yeah, they did that. All right, back to you, Lonnie, and your thoughts.
So I will say Highway to Hell is my favorite AC/DC album, although I do like Ball Breaker. As far as do I like the fact that Kiss has different styles and had taken so many different left turns throughout their career? Absolutely. I love the fact that I can just throw my phone on like a mix of just Kiss, and I can love every minute of listening to Creatures of Creatures of the Night or Satan Sinner, and then turn on and then go to Tomorrow off of Unmasked, and then go to All for the Glory, and then go to King of the Mountain, just anything, and it's all the same band. I love the fact that there's so many different styles and so many different twists and turns throughout the 50 years of their career. Well, not 50 years worth of albums, but 50 years of their career, and have so many left turns and so many different style changes, and it still comes back to the core at the end of the day, like Ken was saying. But that it can have so many twists and turns, and you can have a song like Under the Rose, and then get back to Love God, and it's all the same, and it's all the same group. I think that's great, and I think that actually shows more musicianship and more creativity than just regurgitating the same style and the same thing over and over again. And that's one thing that I love about them, is that they are so different, and they have so many, and that they were able, and that's one reason they were able to survive 50 years, is they were able to say, okay, this is popular, well, we're going to go in this direction for this album. Were they a few years late to the game in some cases, like Carnival of Souls, like Crazy Nights, like Ken mentioned earlier? Yeah, absolutely they were. But I still love the fact that one band encompasses so many different styles. I think it shows how talented they really are.
Nice. All right. Let's see. Oh, and you guys don't have any topics that you want to bring up, do you?
I don't know. I don't think you did a great job.
Because I'm just doing the fisherman.
Keep going.
Keep going, Julian. I think you did a great job.
Nice. Gold star for Lonnie. All right, stylistically. And by the way, I take no credit for any of these questions. These are all from board posters, and I never write down who posted them, so I do apologize. If you listen to the podcast and you catch us using one of your topics, do chime in and remind everyone that it was your idea, especially if the discussion goes badly. All right, so stylistically, which song feels the most out of place on the album that it's on? And there's a few. I just heard the trumpets from the walls of Jericho fanfare, but that's not a song. That's a kind of a musical piece, but that's certainly out of place. I finally found my way to you. That feels pretty damn out of place. That
so crammed in there.
That's like animal abuse. That's cruelty to cats. You know, number one, writing that song. Number two, making Peter sing it. And then number three, putting it on an album. But it clashes horrendously with the rest of that album. And then the immediate predecessor to that was I Walk Alone on Carnival of Souls. That clashed for me big time. Just because Bruce's vocal was so very, very jarring into what I was used to on a Kiss album. Those are two that just I haven't given any thought to that. Lonnie?
Yeah, I agree. Finally Found My Way to You is just so crammed in there and so forced. And it's just like, oh, there's a formula we have to follow, and oh, we have to have a Peter ballad, and toward the end of the album, we have to have a Peter ballad. Like even where it's placed on the album, like toward the end of the album, we have to have a Peter ballad, and the song itself is just, Julian said it, it's just, one, I can't believe it's on there. Two, that they made Peter sing it. It's just so forced. It's ridiculous. But I think I Will Be There on Carnival of Souls seems very, very forced as well, and very just kind of just crammed in there. Like there's these dark and gloomy songs. Like I Think It's Gonna Rain and Hate. And, oh, I Will Be There like a father to my son. Okay, back that everything's terrible. Like, what is that? It seems really out of place to me. And I thought that at the time, and even when I just had the bootlegs at Carnival of Souls, I was like, this is really, really odd placement, really just an odd song right in there. And then the other obvious choices, And Then She Kissed Me. Just does not. I don't know. We don't have anything else we could have put on there, and there's plenty of Gene demos out there at the time that we could have rounded out the album with, as opposed to And Then She Kissed Me. So that's how those three are my big ones. Ken?
Yeah, there's a number of them. I agree with a lot of those. I think also even from Lonnie's favorite album, Every Time I Look at You, I think is kind of out of place. They could have rocked it out the whole way through.
It's a formula at the time. You had to have a ballad.
Yeah, I know you have ballad, but yeah, more of a power ballad. It should have been more of a power ballad. But yeah, I mean, it's still a good song. I'm not saying it's not good, but
why do I get the feeling you're just tweaking Lonnie deliberately there?
I'm just trying.
Throwing some chum in the water and see if it sets him off.
Trying to see where we can go with this.
Give him a poke there. Another one, is like on Gene Simmons' solo album, obviously, the When You Wish Upon a Star. I mean, the thing is, we talked, is that album's all over the place, but that one really is like, whoa, at the end, when, listening to the album for the first time and getting to that, it's like, what did he just do? It's crazy. And there's, I know there's other ones. I do agree with definitely From Love Gun. That was kind of crazy. Even to a degree, even though it kind of fits, but I still don't think it was a good choice. Was On the Elder, doing Odyssey. I just think they didn't need to reach out and grab a song from another artist, and they could have come up with something else that would have been, better, or consistent with what was on the Elder. I just think that one was kind of a reach, very Broadway-ish type song, in my opinion. But I mean, it's there. I mean, we're used to it, but I just think they probably could have found something better.
No, the outtakes tell all the story that you need to know. Well, if you ever get to hear them.
When we get the box set of that,
No, the
When that comes
outtakes
out.
tell it all to why Odyssey's there and why they needed someone else writing songs for them at that point. So
I mean, there's some other ones, but
you want to keep going? Any more?
I
off
can't
Revenge?
reel
Keep
them
going,
off.
Ken.
I'll just keep. No. I'll stop there.
All right, so this is a good one. It was actually buried in the thread for what is it? The biggest positives and the biggest negatives. And where's Drago said his biggest positive was Sonic Boom, and his negative was choosing to play Unmasked in a room full of his mates, and they all laughed when it started with "Is that you?"
Is that you?
Yeah, so that thread was the most positive surprise and the most negative surprise. So, is that you? Is that cause for embarrassment? When you first heard Unmasked, did that have you clutching your pearls or cringing or otherwise freaking out, Ken, since you were there?
No.
Well, when I first brought that album home and put it on and heard "Is That You," I kind of, we had Dynasty before, so I was prepared for that, maybe happening again, the same, kind of style. But "Is That You" is like, this does not sound like Kiss to me. That's what the first thing I thought of. It was probably one of my least favorite songs originally when I first, was listening to the album. I just thought, then looking at the label and seeing, oh, shoot, they didn't even write it. No wonder it doesn't sound like Kiss. It doesn't sound like their style of writing, Paul's writing, or Gene's for that matter. So I thought that was kind of, to me, it was just strange, leading off with a song that was not their own. I kind of, that's, in a way, that's kind of that prior topic is kind of one, to me, it feels different than the rest of the album.
Mm-hmm.
It does, right? So I don't know. That was the thing that did it make me embarrassed? I mean, my friends listened to it too. I think they probably listened to it. Maybe had a friend over when I first got it, but we, he ended up buying it too, though. So it's not an embarrassment. It's just kind of a confusion of why that didn't sound like Kiss.
Yeah, it's weird. I never even thought about that being possibly embarrassing going back through the catalog from my entry point. I always enjoyed that song as a lead-off track on an album, and I didn't know one way or the other Kiss's writing style at that point because it was all so new to me, and I was being inundated by this cascade of Kiss material, exploring the catalog. But I always dug that song. It hasn't aged well in my personal kind of Kiss jukebox, but it's still a damn sight further ahead than stuff like "You're All That I Want" from that album. And Shandy as well are ones that go.
There's worse stuff on that album.
There's way worse than it's a bit precious in some ways, cats drooling on the counter, or the bar stool, whatever. Crack your whips, shake your hips.
And it's strange too that they chose to have the lead track of the album as a cover song. I mean that is very unusual. Can you think of
one of their albums?
Right. There's no other album that starts with a cover. I mean, King of the Nighttime World's a cover, but it's the second song on Destroyer. It's not the lead track on an album. It's very odd. And maybe were they that insecure about the material that they started with a cover as the lead song? It's very odd.
Well, that's kind of a good segue into another aspect of Unmasked. Then, and Is That You? What would have been a better opening track on that album? For me, it kind of comes down to "Talk to Me" versus "Tomorrow." But Ken,
Yeah, I would have started off with Tomorrow probably. Definitely. That's the most poppy hit. A song that should have been a hit, at least as a single, as the first single, over Shandy. It's just, to me, it's a better song, and it's always it's very catchy. But yeah, I don't know what else you could start off with other than that one.
if Shandy had been written by any other band member, it would have been a B-side.
Oh,
It was
correct.
written by like Peter Criss, if he was still in the band at the time. Yeah.
If Gene had written it, it'd be a B-side.
Even if Gene had written
even
it,
better.
yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Because what was the B-side on Shandy? She's So European, and then on Tomorrow, what was it?
I
Naked
like
City.
She's So European.
Yeah, well, they're not bad. I mean, but opening an album, I think the only thing worse would have been Easy as It Seems. Imagine that, R&B-ish.
Starting off with that, leading off with that, I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, what
the hell is
where are we
this?
going here?
Playing the wrong. Okay, let's wrap up with one more, and this is the master topic from which that Unmasked thing came. What in your personal history is the most positive surprise that Kiss has given you, and the most negative surprise? There were some very good ones in this thread. I mean, all sorts of stuff. Like someone actually said that The Elder was their most positive experience or surprise, and that's kind of fun. Lonnie.
I think the most positive surprise, and it's not an album, but it was an experience. It was going to see them. I saw them twice on the Rock the Nation tour, and then they kind of went away after the Rock the Nation tour. And they did that Hit and Run tour in 2007, and my brother and I went to go see them in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on the first night of the Hit and Run tour. And I was really at the peak of my Kiss fandom at that point. And I'd always tell my friends, like, oh, they're the Kiss shows. There's just nothing like a Kiss show. It's just, the most fun and like the best concert experience you'll ever imagine. Like, take any concert you go to and like multiply it by 10, and that's a Kiss show. And I built it up so much in my mind, over those 3 years since I'd seen them, about how great a Kiss concert is. And you guys know, and the listeners probably know too, and you build things up in your mind so much that when you actually get to it, well, it can't possibly live up to the hype that you have built up in your head. And we went and saw that show, and it's maybe my favorite Kiss show I ever saw. And they were so good that night, and it was so much fun, and they were so great. And like, so I don't know if it's and I guess it is a surprise that, because nothing really lives up to the hype. And maybe I sound like such a downer, but if you hype something up so much, it can't possibly live up to it. But it did, and it exceeded that. That was one time they just really just blew my expectations out of the water. And their set list that night was so good. Like, they played Watching You, Come On and Love Me, just all classic stuff that night. Hotter Than Hell. I mean, it was so good. They were so great. And maybe part of it too is like, now you're getting ready to go see a show, like, where you look at the set list and you know what they're going to play because you see what they played a couple nights before. And like, it was the first night of this tour, and like, I had no idea what they were going to play. And the fact that they kept it so classic and they were so good, it was so great. So that's the time that they really surprised me and just made me so proud to be a fan again. When did they disappoint me? Is that that's the other side of it?
That is the biggest disappointment.
Biggest disappointment to me. That's tough. Because there are some disappointments. You know, I mean, let's be honest. There are times that Kiss is like, you're just like, oh, boy. But you're kind of like, isn't that your band? Like, yeah, that's my band. Um, to me, I really liked Sonic Boom, and I was really primed for Monster when it came out 3 years ago, and I really don't like. And I know there's some people that are the opposite that really like Monster and don't like Sonic Boom. I know there's some people that don't like either one of them, and I know there's people that like both of them. But I never listened to Monster. I never listened to it, and it was disappointing to me because I really liked Sonic Boom, and I thought, okay, well, they're gonna now they got got some steam rolling. They're back in the groove of writing music together as a band. I don't like it at all, and I was very disappointed with that. Oh, and I'll take it back. There's one other time I was disappointed with Kiss. There's one other time. Well, there's other times, but there's one that stands out, and that's when I went to Vegas for the residency back in 2014. And they're playing, and we went to see a show on Friday night, and we went to see a show on Saturday night. 2 nights, same city. I, along with multiple people, went to go see the show Friday night and Saturday night, and you travel to go see them. And it was not only the same exact set list, but nothing changed in between. The same Paul raps, the same everything. I mean, you might as well have just put on a video of last night's concert. It was so identical to what we saw the previous night. And I'm just like, you're playing in the same city in a residency on a Friday and a Saturday night. You're playing to essentially almost, not the entire same people, but a lot of the same people you played to last night. And you can't switch it up just this much. Was extremely disappointing to me.
There we go. All right. All right, Ken, do you want to start with the negative surprise, or are you going to start with some positivity?
I'll start with positivity. Well, the one, I mean, I guess really stands out to me as the surprise positive was, well, a couple things, but would be Creatures of the Night.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, just after, Dynasty, Unmasked, Elder, and then I didn't know what to expect anymore. And then it was so heavy, and it's like, well, okay. Yeah, that was a huge surprise. I wasn't expecting it after what, the past few albums. So that was a big surprise, and it was a good one. Another surprise is getting on the Gene Simmons vault. I mean, that experience and getting the other members like Ace and Eric and Bruce all showed up at that in LA. That was very cool. That was a big surprise. So that's another one. So negatives, I agree actually with Lonnie on Monster. That was kind of disappointing. There's a few good songs on it, but it was kind of disappointing. I don't know if it's the style of some of the writing on there, plus the production is just, the brick wall just it just something wrong with it. So I hardly listen to that really myself. But the biggest
Here we go.
disappointment.
Come on.
Let it out.
Dubai!
That's it. That is the biggest disappointment. Where's my Dubai merch that I paid for, Julian paid for, other bands paid for? Where the hell is it?
It's almost 2023.
Where is all this stuff? Yeah, we're almost. Was it 2 years? It's like, come on.
Kiss 2020 goodbye.
And Kiss, I just want to let you know, that Landmarks Entertainment Group or whatever, they're blaming you guys. You should know that. If you don't know that, they're blaming you, saying you're the ones holding it up, the merch up. So you need to look into that and see what's going on and try to make them do what's right. Either refund us, get the merchandise to us, or make something right for the fans who shelled out a hell of a lot of money for videos. So some people paid, $200-300, and some people have paid $1,000 just to watch it on a video stream. And then there's other people that paid to watch it for like 40 whatever bucks. And that's fine, but the people that paid for, it was advertised. There's a list of items out there that were supposed to be there, be shipped out to the people that paid this, for these extra packages, gold and platinum, I think they were, and didn't see one thing, one item. So if you're not watching, well, I guess I'm not going to get any help from you. But if you're watching, you should do something about it. It includes you, Doc.
Ain't watching, ain't going to do anything about it. That's pretty clear at this point. All right, so most positive surprise for me, Sonic Boom. The announcement that they were recording a new album, just because how unhappy the period had been after Psycho Circus and coming to the realization that it was a sham, and the way the band kind of fell apart and looked like it wasn't going to do anything other than, just go on the circus trail and do the same old year in, year out, just tour, play shows, change the set list a little bit here, a little bit there, and then out of the blue, well, not out of the blue, but the announcement comes that they are actually committed to doing an album, was a very positive surprise for me, and one that I'm still very pleased that they did. I'm glad that they did Monster. Monster needs a complete overhaul, remix, to deal with that brick walling. It's just shameful what they did to it, because there are some decent songs on it, and if you're actually able to hear them without ear abuse, I think it might change people's opinions of it, and you can't fix that after it's been mastered. It's nothing you can re-EQ yourself. It's actually ruined. Negative surprise. That's I got to go back to the beginning of my fandom, and that's the first time I listened to Crazy Nights, the album. And just the tinny, shrill production of it, even though there was some good songs, and just the reaction of, this is not where I wanted the band to be going. I wanted my AC/DC Kiss album that sounded just like Asylum. Yeah. That is still probably one of my most negative surprises, other than maybe the Kiss Cruise. And just what it actually ended up being versus you see all the photos, and my experience was nothing like that, but I did at least get thrown out of a show. Didn't get a photo with the band either. God. So that was a kind of a negative surprise, especially the what was it, the cruise crud afterwards. Yeah, that was a pretty negative Kiss surprise. Good God. Yeah, so there we go. There's some board topics this week. What do you think about all of those? What are your opinions? Your most positive and negative Kiss surprises? Do you get angry when people bag on Kiss, or you're like, yeah, whatever, I don't like broccoli? The most AC/DC-ish song by Kiss is, should the debut have had a album title rather than Kiss? Is That You? Is it a cause for embarrassment? Or will it cause herpes? And stylistically, which song feels the most out of place on the album that it's on? There's a whole bunch of good stuff. So, the FAQ discussion sometimes goes off the rails. Okay, most of the time it's off the rails. But most of the topics do start off with decent questions posed for us to discuss. Where they go afterwards is the responsibility of the people who go there. So we thank you for those topics. We thank you for listening or watching, and we hope to see you again. So for now, from Ken, from Lonnie, from Mark. Hey, Mark, hope Shadow's feeling better. We'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.